This Measuring for Improvement Bitesize QI session focuses on variation. Hello, my name is Sid Beach and I am the QI training lead here at CLCH. The purpose of this session is to introduce the concept of variation in data and for you to understand that variation exists in every single piece of data that we collect. And what I'd like for you to take away from this session is for you to understand that there are two different types of variation, known as common cause variation and special cause variation. And I'd also like for you to recognise that both of these are very useful in understanding the impact of QI and measuring for improvement. So as I said, two types of variation. The first is known as common cause variation, which is also known as normal variation or random variation. Now this is the day-to-day fluctuations that you'll see in data. For example, if we looked at or plotted the number of births in London by day, it would go up and down between around 300 to 350 each day. Similarly, if I plotted my systolic blood pressure by the minute, it would go up and down around, let's say, roughly 100. The other type of variation is known as special cause variation, and this is due to something happening that leads to a change in the data, a special cause leading to a change in the data. For example, if again I plotted my systolic blood pressure by the minute and then I went out for a long run in hot weather and got quite dehydrated, then you would probably see that my blood pressure or my systolic blood pressure would shoot up from around that 100 mark in common cause variation up to around 140 or maybe even higher. And you would see that in the data. In this case, the special cause is an increase in the data due to the fact that I am dehydrated. Now, a lot of people then make the immediate assumption that common cause variation is good and special cause variation is bad. This is wrong. Just because common cause variation is stable and predictable doesn't mean that it's good. For example, if my systolic was around 170 and consistent and stable, that wouldn't necessarily be good or healthy. Similarly, if I weighed, let's say, 18 stone and over a year my weight went down week by week to around, let's say, 14 stone because of diet and exercise, then this would arguably be quite good. And that's due to special cause variation, the special cause being the diet and exercise leading to weight loss. So common cause not necessarily good or bad, special cause not necessarily good or bad, but both very useful for helping us understand changes or not in the data. Now, there are two types of special cause variation, the one that's caused by an external factor, a specific thing happening leading to a change in the data. The first is known as unintentional special cause variation, and this is when the system is out of control and unstable due to unexpected or sometimes even unexplained forces. So, for example, the cart being tipped over in that image by the donkey being an unintentional outcome. Intentional, however, is what we really like to see in our data. We like to see intentional special cause variation, and that's because we're trying to change the system. So, for example, in the image shown in the graphs shown on the right-hand side, we're looking at reducing the minutes between A&E and the operating room for patients with an isolated femur fracture. It's good to see that special cause variation, that reduction in the time. So why is this useful? So I think it makes sense now that special cause is useful because it helps us to pinpoint when there is a positive change, but sometimes it can be useful for pinpointing a random thing that we didn't really know about that helps us to investigate and learn more. So for instance, this graph is showing on the screen from days 1 to 25 the percentage of patients who had a completed venous thromboembolism or VTE risk assessment, which has to be completed in every acute hospital. Now you can see the highlighted data point there, day 5, has a higher percentage. So what happened on that day? It's interesting that we should have a look at that to make sure that we can learn and then try to replicate that and see whether perhaps something on that day led to a higher percentage and we can try to replicate that. In this case, we did that and increased our VTE risk assessment compliance based on that learning. So special cause is good at highlighting things that went well that we can learn from and try to repeat and replicate, as well as showcasing that there has been a significant change and things have got better. Common cause variation, on the other hand, is useful because once we have improved, we want to see that to be stabilised and to be consistent. So we want to improve and then maintain that. And that's where common cause variation is very helpful for us to make sure that the changes that we've made have been embedded. So this links closely to the following videos on run charts and SPC charts. But in summary, there are two types of variation: common cause variation and special cause variation. Not necessarily good or bad, but both very useful for understanding change in healthcare. Next step for you is to watch the videos on run and SPC charts.